All right, guys, we are live. Oh, so many verifications. All right, let's try to get that out of the view. And I am doing some last minute cutting out of pieces because, of course, I'm behind. Close. I'm not expecting a whole lot of people to jump in right now. Uh-oh, I'm getting a warning. Hold on. Let's check this warning. Actually, no. That's set to everything normal. All right, we're just going to jump right in. So, I am cutting out the final pieces. I have threaded my machine with my color thread. I have the back and the side front piece. I need to cut out the front piece really quickly because that's one of the pieces that we definitely need to start with. So I'm just starting there because, again, I'm behind. And it's still giving me a... Okay, it says it's good, so we're just going to go with that. Yeah. Anyway, so guys, I have not done a live in years, so definitely expect there to be a couple of problems and snags like I'm having now. But we're going to pull it together because I want to start going live at least twice a month. I'd really love to do it every week. I can't promise that that's going to happen, but I think one of the ways that might make that easier for me is if I pick a project and just do like maybe an hour segment each week instead of just trying to complete a whole project, which is what I usually want to do, but that's because I'm overly ambitious. So yeah. Let me know what night works best for this. Wednesday works for me. Tuesday works for me. I feel like Monday everyone's just trying to get into the groove of the week. And I feel like on Friday, people are just trying to wind down and chill. But maybe that's a good day to watch someone else sew or to sew along with someone because it gives you that kickstart going into the weekend. So just let me know if you think one day is better than the other. Weekends are probably out for me because I'm trying to be outside in 2026. So I can't promise that the weekends are going to work for me unless I did early. I guess that would be a possibility. I had a thread that I thought matched really well, and then I found another thread on my cover stitch machine from my last project that I actually think was a better fit. So now I have to redo the bobbin thread because I do not have any bobbin for this. So bear with me. Hopefully more people will join. But like I said, I did not tell a lot of people that I was going on live until today. I made a post about it, so I don't expect a lot of viewership. And I haven't gone live in years, so you probably weren't thinking this was going to happen. But I'm going to go ahead and load up this bobbin thread. I'm fully making this dress knowing that I have nowhere to go for Valentine's Day. Me and my hubby usually stay in. I'm not a big Valentine's person anyway, but this is McCalls 8383. I've sewn this dress before. It's super cute. It has an open back that you can't see on the picture, which is stupid. But you can see here, there's like a open back on both views. I'm not going to do the open back. The first time I did the dress, I did do the open back, and I don't wear it often because I'm larger now, and oops, my bobbin thread got snagged, and I just don't necessarily want to show my back. Now, sometimes you're going to get what you're going to get, but in this particular dress, I think it's just as cute without the back out detail because the front slit is really cute. That's really my favorite feature about the dress. So I'm going to keep that. I also considered modifying the back opening to be higher so it wouldn't hit right where my rolls are on my back. However, I want to be able to wear this in cooler weather. It's sleeveless, so it's still not going to be great to wear on like a cold day. But I just don't want the open back, so I'm just not going to do it. So instead, I pretty much just drew a line connecting where the back is open. It's really not that hard to do. And then that did mean that I did not need to cut the band piece for the opening on the back, so I did skip that piece. And I am sewing view B because I like the longer midi length and because I like the scoop neck of view B. Well, more like, I guess, a crew neck of view B, that higher neck. I like that. That's what I made the first time. This one looks like a square, but on the drawing, it looks like a deep scoop. I'm not sure which one it is. Either way, that's cute, but it's not what I'm going to make this time. All right, so I got the bobbin threaded. We're going to pull it to the side. This is only my second make of the year, you guys. I feel like I'm so behind in sewing this year. It's already February. Most of my winter plans have not happened. If you saw that I won the gift certificate from Mood, I have that lovely wool fabric for the dress. The coat that I want to make, the by hand London Rumana coat. I've been wanting to make it for years, and I don't know that I'm going to make it. I might actually just hold on to the fabric until next year to make it, because I have a feeling that as soon as I make it here in Atlanta, the temps are going to go back up, and then I'm not going to have a chance to wear it. But then the flip side of that is I guess I could just sew it now, and then next year it would be ready for me to wear and I won't have to go through this again. However, my weight fluctuates so much, I sort of hesitate to make something that I'm not going to be able to wear for another year, because it does not typically get cold enough in Atlanta for a wool coat until January. Like, we don't even get that in December. All right, so my needle is threaded, my bobbin is threaded. I can start this process, but I need to cut out this one piece of, oops, come on. I need to cut out this one piece of the dress. I have the bands cut out and I have the back cut out. What I don't have cut out is the front. I have the side front cut out. But now my thread got tangled, so let's fix that. It's always better if you know that there's going to be a problem to just go ahead and fix it. I used to like push through this kind of stuff and then it just led to problems later. So we are not going to do that today. I think my bobbin thread just got wound up some kind of way. So we are going to redo this again. It doesn't take that long. My nails make good tools for that right now. So now I just need to thread the needle again. One of these days I'm going to get one of the really fancy machines that like air threads your stuff for you and then you don't have to worry about all this. But 10 years into the sewing game and I'm not there yet. I'm still sewing literally on the, well, this isn't the machine that I started on. This is actually, I'll show it to you. This is my Bernina B05 crafter that, or Burnett, sorry, it's not a Bernina. I won this at Frocktails 2 years ago because I didn't go last year. So let's just do a quick look. Don't want to make you guys motion sick, but this is the machine that I am working on. It is the Burnett B05 Crafter. I really like this machine. It's a real basic machine, manual, but it works nicely. I have my original Singer machine back here that I first started on, and I have a couple of more machines. I have a heavy duty Singer and some other machines, but I just wanted to show you what I am working on. Sorry if that made anybody super dizzy. Yeah, so now that I've got this threaded again, let's hand turn this, pick up that bobbin thread. There we go. That was smoother. It's much smoother that time. I don't have to worry about this getting caught up when I put my fabric under it. Oops. All right, and I threaded my serger as well. That thread I don't have to change. I actually had a closer match for my serger thread than for my sewing machine thread, so that's awesome. Let me put on a little lotion because my hands are assy. They're going to be in the camera, and I am going to move. Okay, I'm going to move this view to, oops, not that view. I'm going to move this view over here. I think that's a better place for it. All right. There we go. I'm going to try to do that a little bit better that way. All right, so let me cut out this front piece and then we are going to get started on the sewing. So many apologies for not having that ready. I could have just started the string later, but I had said 7, so I wanted to start at 7. The other thing is occasionally you are going to hear that blowing sound in the background because my sewing room is in the room that I keep where my water heater is, and it's gas. So anytime the water heater kicks on, we get a little bit of noise down here, but that is okay. All right. Close. Hi, Carrie. So yeah, if you're still with me, let me just cut out that one piece and then I'm going to be back to start this process. This is actually a really pretty simple dress to sew. I love a knit dress for this kind of last minute project because you can pull it together quickly. You don't have to worry a lot about fitting issues. And it just, you know, it comes together quickly. I have my serger threaded because I'll be doing that to finish off all my seams. And right here I have the back piece as well as the side front. And then I have, nope, that's scrap. I have the bands cut already. I'm gonna bring you with me. I think my cord is long enough. Oh, it almost was. It's not quite. We're gonna leave you here. Sorry about that. All right, let me just cut off this last piece, which is the front, which is a big piece because you're not cutting it on the fold because of the little asymmetric hem. So it is this pretty large piece so that you can have the cutout here. So let me just get that cut out real quick. It always takes me longer to cut out fabric than I think it's going to take, which is why I'm behind. I also have my neck bands and my hem bands, the neck band and the arm bands already cut, and I pinned the pattern piece to it because these are very close in length and I do not want to get them mixed up. All right, so I'm just smoothing this out and I'm going to start my YouTube music. I'm also going for this longer length, so I do have to use more space on my sewing table for this. Like I said, I've made this dress before and it turns out really cute. I just don't wear it a lot because the back is out. That one is actually red. It's the cover photo for this. So you can see exactly what it looks like. And I must have done something wrong when I cut out this pattern because it said I was only going to need, I think 1 3/8 yard? No, 1 3/4 yards of fabric, and I had a 3-yard remnant, and I'm not going to have anything left over, so either I cut something wrong or they lied. I'm not sure which. I am at the larger size. I'm cutting a 22. I want to make sure that it is going to fit and be roomy enough. So I think last time I made this, I cut a 20, and I think I could have gotten away with the 20 this time because This Liverpool knit is very stretchy. I'm going to show it to you closer up in a second. This Liverpool knit is very stretchy, and I think I could have gotten away with a 20, but I'd rather cut it too big and take it in than, of course, cut it too small and then it just be too tight, because there ain't nothing I can do at that point. I'm just lining it up so that the grain is correct. Might not matter as much in knits, but it still definitely matters. I'm going to sign in to my YouTube. Get some music going. Hope that they do not get me for any of this. Yep, that's the same code. Yep, let's log in. Allow. Huh. Why did that not work? Let's try one more time. Because if not, I will play it from my phone. Okay, now it's doing it. We are good to go. Oh, they're trying to make me watch All's Fair. I do not want to. I'm going to do something that doesn't compete with any type of disclaimer, because I do not want them to take this down or mute my video. So we are just going to go for lo-fi vibes. I love having an actual R&B playlist, but I do not feel like getting in trouble today. This is my first live in a while, and I want no strikes. So, all right, just gonna finish this up. I really usually very much hate sewing anything that's asymmetrical. Like, well, that's not true. I don't like cutting out things that are asymmetrical like this, because it usually does take the whole table and it takes me longer to do. I love it when I can cut something on the fold. It's just literally easier. However, I always like sewing and wearing asymmetrical items, so this becomes the problem of my life. I have a very similar problem with stripes. I always buy stripe fabric, and I love playing with color blocking, or I guess pattern blocking, with the directions of the stripes on a pattern. But when it's time to cut out said pattern, oh my gosh, the headache that must ensue to make sure that you cut everything at the right angle and make sure that the stripes are going the right way. And heaven forbid, if you want the stripes to line up on a seam, then that's a whole thing. So the things that I love also cause me so much pain sometimes, because that's just harder. But I want to make sure that I'm cutting this out properly. So I'm going to have to take my time a little bit. Again, I'm cutting a 22. I'm a 44-inch bust, a 40-ish inch waist, and a 48-inch hip. So I really just did it for my bust. I will have negative ease in the hips, but I'm okay with that. Sort of what I want. I'm a little concerned that it's going to be too big in the bust, but can always take it in. Just because this knit is super stretchy, and so I think it might get away from me. So I'm making sure that I'm staying true to these lines, marking all of my notches, very important. Even on a dress as simple as this, you want to make sure when it comes time to put everything together that everything lines up correctly. And so that is what I am doing here. And once I get done with this, we will start the actual sewing. If you sew, sadly, you know, often you do more prep than you do actual sewing sometimes. Sorry if you guys are looking at my behind. At least I have on my Shaper Mint leggings to hold everything in. Cutting as fast as I can without making mistakes, hopefully. This should be a really quick project, so once I start sewing, we should be able to get there very quickly. All right, now I just need to make sure that I transfer the notches on this side. There's another one here. These are important notches because they're where the side panel is going to match up, so I want to make sure I get those correct. All right. Now we are going to start. I'm going to try to follow the instructions for this just in case anybody else is going to sew this dress at some point, because I will save this and share it on my actual YouTube channel so you can refer back to it later. Adjust this light some. All right. So now I have all the pattern pieces cut out. We have one neckband, one armband. These are the two back pieces. You can see, nope, that's the hem. This is the shoulder. Sorry. This is the shoulder. And this is like the armhole. So these are the two back pieces where I didn't cut out the hole. This is the little piece that's the side front that makes that sexy slit. And then this piece is the front piece that I just cut out. Again, you can see it's asymmetrical. This is the front, and then it sort of goes down in this curve. So let's see what the instructions have us start with. I would sew the front to the front, side fronts. That's what I would do, but let's see what they say. They do have step one is stay stitching. I'm not doing that because I'm lazy, but you should. You should. Do as I say, not as I do. So basically you're going to ease in that curve, sewing together the side front to the front. to the notch or dot, to the dot. So first thing we got to do is pin those pieces together. This again is the front, and this is the curve that we're going to be pinning. So you want to take that piece and your side front, right sides facing. So the Liverpool, that's going to be the textured side. You have this textured side, then you have this smooth side. But on the Liverpool, the textured side is actually the right side. So I'm going to go ahead and put these together and pin them in place. Now, I grabbed this fabric here locally in Atlanta from Alpha Plus Fabrics. I think Atlanta's newest fabric store. It's on Memorial Drive. I did a YouTube video about visiting that store, so check that out if you'd like to. If you live in the Atlanta area and you're familiar with fine fabrics, it's sort of like a baby fine fabrics. The owner is actually I don't know if she's the same person who owned the fine fabrics in Norcross, but I definitely saw her at the fine fabrics in Norcross. So it's like staying in the family or something with them. So yeah, the prices are the same. The selection is very similar. It is a little bit less because the store is, the warehouse is not as big, but I still found good stuff there. So I'm just matching up these notches and these dots. So I got 2 notches. I am making sure that they are together, pinning that. And this was actually the dot. I didn't draw the dot. I just cut a notch where the dot was. So I'm going to put double pins there. Can you see that? I'm going to put double pins there so I'll remember to stop. The rest of that is going to be that sexy slit. So now that I have that done, I'm going to ease in the rest of it and just make it fixed. I did it at the top notch and I'm doing it at the dot, and then we're just going to ease everything else in because it is a curve. The good thing is that this is a knit, so it's very easy to sort of stretch it and ease it together to get this side seam, which is the part of the dress that I really like, because without this it's just a pretty basic bodycon dress. Well, and the back opening, but I took that out. So this is what makes it sort of stand apart from, like, say, a McCalls 6886 or whatever it got renumbered to at some point, which was a very popular dress for a very long time, because you really can't go wrong. It's the kind of dress like this one where the fabric really does the talking, you know? This is still simple fabric because it's solid. So it's not doing a lot of talking, but I like this color. And like I said, I got this as a 3-yard remnant, supposedly. I didn't seem to have as much as I thought I did. I got this as a 3-yard remnant from Alpha Plus Fabric, so I was able to make this dress for, I think the 3 yards were $7.99 as a remnant, which, you know, that's a great deal. I might close this second camera because I don't think I'm going to be able to do what I wanted to do. Yeah, we're just going to let that go for now. I wanted to hook up a second camera to give you an overhead view of the cutting table, but that proved to be a little too ambitious tonight. Maybe next time. I know a lot of the sewers who go live can get the multi-angles, and I just don't know if I don't have my space set up appropriately for that yet or not, but it's too many cables. I don't have long enough cables. Anyway, I have this seam pinned. This is the side front to the side seam. Now you could use a zigzag stitch for this. I'm not, or a stretch stitch would probably be the best actually, but I'm not. I'm simply using a straight stitch. I'm going to take a little bit of the tension out to make it a little bit looser, because at the end of the day, for me, I am going to end up going to my serger and finishing off these seams with my serger. So even if the thread from the sewing machine pops, the serge is going to be right there behind it to hold it in place. And I pretty much just serge right along the line where I stitched it. Now, truthfully, I could just sew this strictly on my serger. I, however, like to do it this way in case there's something that I need to unpick. I can do it along the way. So I really wanted to come back to doing the live sewing because it's fun. It also sort of keeps me accountable because If I know I have to come on at a certain time and sew, then I will. And then that makes sure that I at least get that project done. So what I'm thinking about going forward is, I want to make sure you can hear me over my machine. It is loud. What I want to do going forward is to maybe do free patterns, free simple patterns. Typically the free patterns are a little bit simpler anyway, as far as construction and everything is concerned. So I'm thinking maybe I want to do just a series on Wednesdays of free sewing patterns. That may be a mood pattern. It may be just an independent person's pattern. It may be, what's the name of that? Unfettered patterns. Has a lot of free patterns. I have quite a few patterns. I also have a page of free patterns as well as indie patterns on my blog, tipstitch.com, so you can check that out as well. If you're new to sewing, I just feel like free patterns can often be the easiest way to get in to sewing, because you don't want to spend a lot of money on, you know, patterns that you already had to buy a machine and fabric and everything else. However, some free patterns are not drafted at the same quality as others, so it would help, I think, to see somebody else sew a pattern, or the instructions can often be lacking even if the actual pattern pieces are good. So maybe if I did like a sew along for that, it also would help walk you through and ease you through a free pattern. So let me know what y'all think about that. Now I am at my, oh, you know what I just realized I could have done? I could have put another camera here so you could, you know what? Let's do that this way. So sorry. We're learning on the curve. If there's any feedback on this, let me know. Please do not judge my future lives based on this. This is just really a test run. This year, I'm trying a lot more to focus on getting things done versus doing them perfectly. I'm a person who really does like to do things, you know, well and correct. But if that means I don't get it done at all, then what good does that really do? So I'm going to try this. I hope that this, oh no, I got to move this out the way. I hope that this helps so you can see a little bit of what I'm doing on the machine as I'm doing it. Anyway, I think a first person view would be helpful. So I just thought that I could actually do this. This makes sense. So here are my double needles, and that's where the dot is. That is where we are to stop sewing to create the slit on the rest of it. So what I am going to do here is sew to these, it should be a notch. I mean a dot. I made a notch. I'm going to sew to this point and then backstitch. So if I remove these, keeping what I made as a notch lined up, we're going to get right to that notch and backstitch. All right, so that will not come apart. Now, if I was smart and had read the instructions ahead of time, I would have actually serged both these raw edges before I started sewing, because ultimately I'm going to have to fold this over like this and then top stitch it down. I can still do it at this point, which is what I'm going to do. I might make these notches a bit longer, and then I'm just going to fold this over and sew this down. But I'm going to connect everything I can at the sewing machine, so I'm not going back and forth the whole time. So what we can also do is sew together the two back pieces. And like I said, this is the shoulder up here on this hand. This is the neckline. This is the armhole. And over here is where the big cutout should be for the back hole, but I took it out. So basically I'm just going to take these apart and put them back together so that they're right sides facing. If I would have cut it that way, that would have made a lot of sense. But again, we're just doing the same thing. Let me bring it around here so you can see. I'm just matching the notches. I have a single notch here, matching it, and then I'm going to pin here at the top of the seam. Can y'all hear the music? I want it loud enough that you can hear it, but not so loud that you can't hear me. That's sort of hard to do while I'm recording live to test. Okay, and then if you keep going down, there should be a place. Oh, then see, look at there. Is that the wrong side? That is the wrong side, see? So about to say there should be a triple notch, so we're gonna find it. And then make sure that we're actually attaching. Here we go. Already making mistakes. So I'm going to take the triple notch that I have here and line them up for both. You usually have a triple notch on the back. That's how come I knew I was doing the wrong thing. The single notch was on the front. Now there is another single notch here near the neckline, and that's what I thought I was pinning. You can see it here, I hope. So we are going to match that too. And I'll take the other pins out in a second. Mistakes. So yeah, I'm just going to put a couple of pins in between just to make sure I'm keeping everything together. Again, this pattern is pretty forgiving, so I'm not going to put a whole lot of pins. Now for the back, you do want to sew the whole length of the thing. You don't have to worry about the slit in the back because we have it in the front. So we are just going to go through and pin these pieces together. I'm going to pin the hem here. Oops, get it lined up. Your nails are tools and not tools sometimes in sewing. And then, like I said, in between these two pins, I'll put a couple more just to be certain. And then we're going to go ahead and sew this back seam from the center back at the neck to the center back of the hem. Now that I have all my pins in place, we're just going to go ahead and do that. Again, I'm doing this with a straight stitch. Part of the reason why is that you really just have to worry about this stretching up and down as far as popping stitches, and it does have some vertical stretch. It has much more horizontal stretch, but it does have some vertical stretch. So if I was patient, I would use a stretch stitch, which would be, well, sorry, I don't want to make you like motion sickness, which would be the triple line that you have on your machine. However, I'm not going to do that because, again, I'm going to go over it with my serger. You could also do a very narrow zigzag stitch, would work perfectly. I'm not going to do that either. So, again, an example of do as I say, not as I do. I don't have a lot of problems with things popping. When I do this, I did lower my tension to 3, so it's not as tight if it does get a little pulled. But I will say I have had a stitch pop here or there in the past. So again, do it right. Don't be being quick like me. I think I'm just impatient, and the zigzag and stitch takes longer. The triple stitch, the stretch stitch, takes forever. It works beautifully. But I'm just trying to get this as a quick sew. And again, I am backing it up with my serger. If I was not going to serge it, I would most definitely use a stretch stitch. I do not like to sew over pins. I mean, everyone makes a mistake here and there, but it is not something that I make a habit of doing. So you will typically see me remove my pins. It's just, I'm not a fan. I've yet to have a sewing injury, and I would like to keep it that way. I did once hit my nail with got it under the feed and got the needle hit my nail. However, I either had gel nails or acrylics then too, so it didn't penetrate my nail. But I've definitely seen that happen to other people. And I've definitely seen people sew over a pin and it break. And I do not want a needle in the eye, even though I'm wearing my glasses tonight. So now I have the center back sewn together. Again, I've eliminated the hole. Sorry to keep repeating myself. I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So here is the back sewn together with no opening. So now I'm going to take this over to my serger. You guys are going to come with me, obviously. And I am going to serge along the back. The only thing that I'm going to do different on the front piece, actually no, I'm not. I'm going to serge to this notch and then I'll fold over and create the hem. So I think I'm already out of order for the directions. Gosh. I'd be lying. Oh no, 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 no. I am. Step 2 was step 2. Step 1 was stay stitching. Step 2 was front to side front, and then step 3 was to sew the back together. Now they do have the opening that we don't have, so that's whatever. And then they want you to simply sew the back to the front. So I'm actually doing it in the order that they said. I would usually go ahead and sew my hem bands now, but I'm just going to go ahead and wait. So yeah, we're going to move over to the serger. I do not think that my action cam can make it that far, and I do not want my laptop to almost fall like it did last time. So we'll see how close. Oh, look at there. We got pretty close, y'all. You might not be able to get the exact like first point of view, but you'll be able to see enough. It's just serging. There's nothing interesting. So this is the back piece, and I'm basically just going to serge this whole thing. Nothing, you know, special here. I do need to test on a scrap piece of fabric because I did change this thread, and I just need to make sure that the tension is correct. How I do that is just usually take a scrap of the fabric that I cut while I was cutting out the pattern pieces and run it through the machine. I have already threaded it, so hopefully nothing snaps here because I was changing colors. And it looks like something snapped, of course, because I'm live. Let's see what happened here. I think the looper threads came out. No, they're in there. They're just too tight. Let's see. Let's loosen everything up. And then we will try again. Yeah, let's try again. No, I think that time something did come out. Let's check it out. So a lot of people are always afraid of this, like working with the serger and changing the thread really sort of drives them crazy. I've done it for a long time. I don't have the, oh, I see exactly where it got caught up. One day, again, I'd love to have an air threader where I don't have to do this myself, but right now I still have to. If you have a Brother 1034D, which I know a lot of people have, you might be familiar with, oh, I don't want to again. All right, so this green thread, the upper looper, is what was being finicky. So you want to make sure that it comes into this hook and then goes through the eye. So that's where it came out at. I might need to get my little plier, my little needles, but I might be able to, yes, again, nails, great, feed it through, and if I can just catch it and pull it, that should get it back on track. We'll try again, let's see what happens. You want to make sure that you put it back under the presser foot. It looks like the other threads are where they're supposed to be, so I don't want to touch them. I don't want to make anything worse. So we are going to try again with just a little short piece of fabric. I folded it in half because I will be doing double thickness, and I just want to make sure the tension's correct for the double thickness. So we'll try again. All right, and see, look at that. That's almost perfect. The loopers are a little loose. You can tell, I'm trying to give something to contrast it on. You can tell because they're sticking out a little bit further than the fabric. So I do want to tighten both loopers. Actually, I'm going to bring them to 4-ish, and then we're going to try one more time. That should get it pretty darn close. The needle thread looks fine. So it's still a little loose on, can I tell? Yeah, still a little loose. I'm like 4.5. Maybe move the needles to 3.5. They're probably okay though. No, the needle is a little loose because you can see here how you can see the needle thread. So I will take the needles up to 4. One more time. I know I already said that. But see how that wasn't scary? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay, now that was a problem because I knew that that was going to be an issue. Somehow the knife missed it. And so now I'm going to have to pull all of this apart. And I broke a needle. Again, the things that happens when you're on live. I was so close. All right, let's go ahead and fix this problem. Let's change this needle. This is a good lesson in how not to get too worked up about it. We're going to open this up again. Make sure if the loopers are still threaded. Yep, that one's threaded correctly. Now I just need to find the other one, I think. Nope, that's the piece that broke off. Where is the other looper thread? I think this is it. So we are going to, I don't want to turn this hand wheel and I'm going to lose it. I don't want to lose it, y'all. Let's get in here. Actually, this is the time to bring in the pliers. Sorry for the off-screen noise, but somewhere in here are my pliers. See, you guys, I haven't had a problem in so long. I don't even know where the pliers are. Oh, they're in my handy thing up here. Okay, so we are going to go and take this little piece and grab it. Oh, it might not be tight enough. I just don't want to lose it back into the machine. I want to pull it so that I don't have to rethread that looper. And maybe that's not going to work. Yep, I don't think I can get a tight enough grip. All right, well, sometimes you just gotta do things the hard way. That is likely going to get pulled back in. And that's okay. If I can't get it going. As I was bragging about this being such a quick sew, look what happens. All right, we are going to pull this out. Which, ooh, I needed to clean in here anyway, guys. Look at this, all this lint. That wasn't the problem because the problem was... All right, so I just pulled that out. I'm gonna pull some more slack on this while I'm in here. Anyway. Let's brush some of this debris and lint away. So that wasn't the problem right now, but it might be a problem in the future. So let's just clean that out while we're here. And then we're going to take it back around this. This is the part that people don't usually like to do. Put it back in there. You're going to take it back through this little hole here, which I might need to cut this off to make a little blunt in. So it's easier to feed through this hole. Now I can get these to work because there's some slack. So there you go. And you're going to take it ultimately back onto the presser foot as well. But you see this needle right here? That's the needle that broke. And both of them became unthreaded. So we're going to keep the loopers down. We are going to pull. This is the first needle. So put that aside. Let's go ahead and change this needle. Gotta find my little wrench. Guys, this is so serious. I have not had a problem with my serger in so long. But I'm not really sure where this wrench is. I usually keep it in this trusty kit right here. And I don't think that my cover stitch wrench is the same size. So we may be in a little bit of trouble. Where could it be? Well, the good news is I keep a toolkit in my sewing room for emergencies like these. So if I can't find it, we will pull that out. I'm just apologizing for the delay. It really should be here. Well, give me a second. And of course, today, of all days, I cannot find this wrench. I can't even find my backup set of like Allen screws or Allen wrenches. That's really what I need. I don't know how else to get this needle out. And I don't know where else this wrench could be. I am usually pretty meticulous, even when the rest of the room is a mess, to have that in the right spot, which is this. And I don't see it on there. It's always the last place you look. It was under something. All right, so we want to keep the one good needle in. Although, you know what, truth be told, let's just go ahead and take them both out. Who knows how old either one of these needles are. So we are going to throw these away in my little trash can back there. And I'm going to pull out 2 new needles. Now, in my serger, I always use a ballpoint or a stretch needle. So I'm going to see what I have. This is a Microtex, which could work. All right, here's one, and I like to use a 90-14 because that'll sort of work on most fabrics. Yeah, but that pack only had 1, so let's find another one. Woven needles, Microtex. Those are 80. These are top stitching. Aha. I think we'll have luck in this pack. Yes, this is I need yellow and blue. So we want a ballpoint. I use Singer and Schmitz needles, but that's what I got my hands on first. So this with the yellow and blue means it's a knit. That's what the yellow means. And the blue means it's a weight 90-14. So now that I have two of those, we are going to put them back in here because I've just made a total mess of this. I'm going to raise, oh, that's as high as it goes. Now, the thing about this 1034D is that these needles go in at different heights. So I just like to hold both of them in my hand with the flat backs facing my pointer finger. So the rounded side is pointed towards me and the flat back is towards the backs. That's how it goes in the machine. And if you just sort of hold them together, you can get them in there. And I'm going to use my nail to just sort of make sure they get pushed up in there. It would probably be better if you use something else. Oh, let's get them back together. Get them lined up right. All right, here we go. I am going to just use my nail, like I said, to push it up there. Like I said, one needle goes in further than the other. So if they're not aligned, don't worry, they're not supposed to be. And then while I'm holding them in place with the tension from my finger, I'm going to tighten this wrench back up and just make sure that they're all the way up there touching the top. And this time I'm going to make sure that I put this back in the serger box. All my serger accessories. All right. And then we can thread both of these. I'm just going to pull gently to see which one is which. This is the first needle, so this one. This one, yeah, it's the second needle. So I'm going to do this. Again, well, this looks like it has a pretty blunt end. We're going to stick it through. Thankfully, even at my big old age of 45, I don't have too hard of a time threading the eye of the needle yet. I'm sure my vision will get worse. All right, so we're going to take this, pull it towards the back, pull it towards the back. I might need a fresh needle. That might be part of the problem, or the fabric might have just got caught above the knife. I mean, knife, not needle. We just changed the needles. But let me cut this off, get that blunt end. It's easier to feed through. The nails don't always help with the threading. Sometimes they definitely get in the way. But look at there, right in the hole. Awesome. All right, so the knife is up. It was definitely going up and down. You can see it up right here. I'm going to pull all the threads to the back. We're going to put the foot back underneath. Make sure it's... I'm going to pull the lever on the back to make sure. Yep, so it's taken. We're going to make sure again that all of these go underneath. And then, unfortunately, we got to test another piece. So, let's find my scrap piece again. Cutting off some of this. I'm not going to cut any of this out because it's a live. That's part of the reason why I wanted to do a live. When I'm doing my edited videos for YouTube, I get really focused on like making sure that they're perfect and everything looks great. And that's awesome. But it actually slows down my process. It makes it a little less enjoyable sometimes. So, yeah. I wanted to do a live and just come straight at it. This one actually looks pretty good. You have the tension here. You don't see the thread in between. So, that's great. So, like I said, I'm going to, now that I've done all of that. Whew, sorry, y'all. Real life. Now we are going to sew from the neck of the back of the dress to the fronts. I mean, to the hem. So we're starting out at the, actually no, that's the hem. Switch it up. Switch it up. Here we go. From the center back at the neck to the hem. I'm just going to serge this off. Now, a good rule of thumb is also to give this a good press. And I do have my iron on and ready to go. But with a knit like this, I don't always press. Is that a needle thread that came out? Yes, it looks like it is. seemed to catch itself back somehow. So I'm gonna let it go. Yeah, it's definitely two threads everywhere else. It just somehow got caught up right here. So I'm going to snip that, and I'm actually just going to go back over it because that is the easier fix to me. I'm just going to go back over it. I'm going to start a little bit above where it stopped. Is that the correct thing to do? Maybe, maybe not, but it's the way that I'm going to handle it. And then we are just going to tie this off so that this doesn't come loose. I just go in here and pull the two needle threads through. And you have half and half. I'm going to take it a little bit lower. I used to be real persnickety about making sure that all four of my serger threads exactly match the piece that I was sewing. However, you really can't see the thread, and what I learned was, especially back when we still had JoJo's, is I would buy sort of 4 colors that were similar and then put them on the serger, because one of them was probably going to closely match the fabric, and then the others would blend in enough, because when you do this serged piece here, all the thread sort of just comes together, so you can see that I have these 2 darker burgundies that are more exactly the color of the dress, but then I also have 2 pinks, a lighter pink and a little bit darker pink, that all sort of blend into the family of this colorway, and that actually works perfect. Once you have it sewn on like this, you can barely see the difference in colors, and it stops you from having to buy 4 pieces or 4 cones of serger thread in each color. Just buy a variation, like a gradient of a color in 4 different gradients, and then that way you can match almost everything. Also, you know, grays as well as taupes look pretty neutral on any color fabric, like lighter and darker colors. It's really weird how that works. There's plenty of articles about what colors to use to do that. I have 2 sergers, so I typically have a lighter color on one serger and a darker color on the other. The other thing that I will do is, like in this project, I have this that actually matches this fabric, and then the other one has a very neutral taupe color on it. So if I decide to do something else soon, that one's ready to go. I used to keep them black and white, but black and white aren't actually the best colors to sort of keep as your neutral colors. I mean, if you sew a lot of black and white, which I do, it does work for a certain amount of time. But anyway, so that is the back. We've got that done, and then we are going to serge together this front piece to the notch area, which I'm going to make this notch a little larger. And so I'm going to just sew or serge right up until this notch. So I'm going to serge right up past the notch, because the rest of it will get hemmed for the slit. But we're going to start at the top of the curve. Place the presser foot down and just serge again. Go a little slower this time because you are working with the curve. Want to make sure I don't catch anything. That's the tightest part of the curve, so I'm going to quicken it up a little bit here. And then see how I serged right off at this notch. Got a little bit wonky because it got stretched, but I'll tie this off here, and then I can fold over the hem. We'll do that back at the sewing machine. So just give me a second to tie this off. We'll go back to, I think it actually has me sew the front and the back before I finish the hem, but I want to finish the hem, so I'm going to do that first. All right, now let's move back to the sewing machine. Here we are. And on the bigger camera, let me show you. this is the front of the dress. This is where, oops. This is where the seam is meeting here, and then there is the slit at the bottom. So what we're going to do is finish off that slit. That's actually not what it tells you to do next, but what it wants you to do next is sew the front to the back, which is valid. I just don't care. All right, so for this, you could, let me get this better on the webcam. This you could do, again, by finishing off each side of this seam with the serger. That would be wise. It also would sort of give you a guide of how far to fold it over. But what I'm going to do is, here's the start of the split. I'm going to fold it, little narrow fold, move those threads out the way, and then fold it again. And that should line up pretty close. To be very narrow. Actually, I lied. I'm going to serge this. Hold on. We'll be back. All right, sorry about that, guys. I just think it'll be a little easier to show you what I'm trying to do if I have that serge. So this is where I serged it and tied off the two pieces that are together. And then this is the start of the slit. I did serge both sides separately. I need to snip it. There we go. I did serge one side separate and then this side separate. That's why I wasn't going to do it initially. And so I'm just going to fold this over. I'm going to take this tail and tuck it underneath. That'll be a good way to catch it. I don't have to tie it off. I'm going to fold this under like that and pin. And then we're going to top stitch it from the other side. So actually I need to pin from that side. Let's see, which way am I going to go? But I'm just using sort of the seam, the serged edge is like a guide of how far to flip it over. It's about 3/8, so I'm folding it over about 1/2 inch there. I'm just going to do it all the way down. Now I'm folding it and pinning it like this from the wrong side so that you can, my needles will be going in the right way when it's time to sew it from the top. And I'm just going to keep doing this to the end. Or to the hem, I should say, I guess. And then we will do the same thing to the other side. Alright, so when I feed it through the machine, I'm going to feed it through this way, which is why I put the needles in that way. And then I'm going to get to this point over here, stitch over, and come back down. So now we need to pin the other side, sort of going in the opposite direction. We're still trying to keep it. That might have been a little bit too much. Still trying to keep it pretty even. With the serged side. Here we go again. Few more. Hey, Catrice, I'm sorry I might have missed you. Had so many mishaps. And that makes sense for my first live back. So yeah, I definitely want to get into the routine of doing this. Right now, I am definitely thinking that it will be Wednesday nights between like 7 and 9. Maybe a little longer depending on the project. It might be a little longer tonight because I had some issues. But now that everything is pinned, I'm going to move my needle over a little bit so I make sure that I catch it. And so and this is just top stitching this slit for a nice finished hem. If you're curious how I'm trying to keep it straight, I'm trying to keep this folded edge of fabric lined up with a certain point on my foot that I can see. I don't know if you can see it on camera. But right underneath the clear plastic part, and then that should keep it mostly even all of the way. And I move my needle over to make sure that I'm capturing, you know, what I need to capture. So now when we get to here, where we need to go down, I'm going to go a little bit above the split, hand turn it here, turn my fabric, place the needle back down, pull this needle out of the way a little bit, don't want to hit it, and then I'm going to hand sew 2 or 3 stitches across the seam. Oh, that might have been 4. All right, pick it up again, pivot some more, and then we're just going to sew down this way. So now you see how I put the needles there for that reason. Yep. The pins, I should say. Sorry, not the needles. I'm just going to finish this off. Oops, I got a little wonky there. I'm really working on my perfectionism because, one, store-bought stuff isn't perfect. I mean, especially if you're buying somewhat discount stuff. But even some of the higher end stuff isn't perfect nowadays. So that's one. 2 is something that another sewing friend told me years ago, which was the 3-foot rule. If you can't tell it from 3 feet away, then it's fine. And I remembered that because, yeah, only other sewists are going to be coming up to you and trying to like look at the wrong side of your dress. So I stitched up and then I stitched across and I stitched back down. So now we have a finished slit. You don't have any raw edges, and thankfully my serger thread matches pretty good so that even if this kicks open, it still looks nice and finished on the inside. I do need to cut away these random threads. Do you guys cut your threads as you go or like at the end? I tend to cut mine at the end, because otherwise I feel like you just do it so much. But I'm gonna go ahead and snatch these right now. Yeah. Get them cleaned up. And so now we're simply going to pin this newly constructed and hemmed off front piece to the 2 back pieces. I let it hit the floor. These 2 back pieces that are sewn together now as well. Again, I eliminated the opening on the back. So you want to start at the underarm of both, right sides facing. For me, using this knit, it is the textured sides facing, and just like we did before, pin it together. On the side seam, you're going to have this single notch sort of under, a little bit under the underarm. So I'm going to pin there, pin at the underarm. Now these are going to get finished off with bands. We'll get to that in just a little bit, because even with my mishap, I think we might finish this on time. By 9 o'clock. I was thinking I would go to 7 to 9. I don't think I'll put that anywhere necessarily, but that was my goal. All right, so then we're just going to pin along. This is like the hip curve right about here. You're just going to keep going as many pins as you need to feel secure. we're going to do as you go. I think that makes more sense. I think I'm just lazy because sometimes I get to the end of a project and I'm like, oh crap, now I gotta cut all these threads. And if you don't cut them before you do more construction, they might get caught in another seam. So I do think as you go is probably better. I just don't always do that, but I'll try to do that today. All right. And hopefully my hem, it lines up for the most part. Sometimes I'm a quick cutter, so everything isn't always quite right. But I think today is going to be fine. Oh, I thought that was something beeping on my machine. This is this lo-fi music I have playing. I really want to turn on like a real one of those DJ sets on YouTube, but I'm afraid that I'll get flagged for copyright, and I don't want to get in trouble on my first live back. All right, so that's one side. I'm going to flip it around. I'm going to not do it in front of the camera because that's more work. Wait, how behind is my live? Hold on. Because it's still showing my serger. Why is it showing my serger? Do you see a serger or a sewing machine if you're still there, Catrice? Because what happened? Did something blip? My webcam looks to be working fine on my computer, the inset photo, but it doesn't look like the... I don't want to cut it off and start it back on for fear it'll mess something up, but I'll do it if I have to. Because I'm not seeing my sewing machine. Yeah, that makes sense. You don't want to go out with threads hanging. I've definitely had that happen too. Figure out what's going on with this camera though. Technical difficulties. This is my learning. This is going to be my learning. Live. Hopefully I'll get it together for the next time. It's just not seeing my camera anymore. Saying that it's connected as a webcam, but it's not actually. There we go. I think I'm back now. I think I'm back now. Give it a second. I'm just pinning these side seams together so you're not missing anything. And hopefully you can see me on the other view. They could have put a few more notches on this side, but it's fine. I would usually take my fabric and move over to my cutting table behind me to lay this out flatter to pin everything together. But because I cannot drag my camera that far, I'm either going to have to invest in much longer cables. Yeah, much longer cables, I guess, because I don't know how else I could do it. And maybe I need like a docking station or something. Anyway, all right, so now I have the side seams pinned. I'm just going to sew the side seams together with 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Yep, here we go. With 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, because that is what all sort of big 5, big 4 patterns call for. 5/8 is an inch. A lot of indie patterns do a 1/2 inch, even 3/8 of an inch, but the big 5 likes to make sure that you have enough to play with, take in, or take out if you need to. Oh, I need to move my needle back over. Start it over. Uh-oh. Somehow my needle became unthreaded anyway, so that was good to notice before I got too far. Sewing with no thread in the needle is just as annoying, if not more annoying, than sewing with no bobbin thread, which I'm sure we have all done a time or two. Thankfully, my auto threader on this one still mostly works, so it's not that big of a deal. I broke it on my other machines when I was newer and didn't really know what I was doing. So now that I do, that's better. All right, so that was threaded really quickly, and we're just going to start back, which was great because my needle was in the wrong place anyway. Moved it back over. And making sure that underneath here, this seam is pressed up. Would have definitely been better if I did that with an actual iron and pressed it, but and I wasn't quite at 5/8 of an inch, but we're gonna fix that when I come back up. Again, this is a knit, so it's pretty forgiving as well. Now what I will do is I will finish off the shoulder seams after I do these side seams. And then I will actually sort of slip the dress on. I might have to reposition my lights down here. There we go. And then, like I said, at the very top, I wasn't quite 5/8 of an inch over. I was focused so hard on keeping this up that I wasn't doing a very good job of doing that. So let me line it back up at 5/8 and just sort of go back over it until I meet where I pretty much was at 5/8. I backstitch, and now that seam will be fine. I could go through and unpick these stitches that are more like a 3/8 of an inch seam, but I'm going to serge this. It's going to get cut off anyway, so it don't matter. And let's do the other side. I'm going to go ahead and do both sides and the shoulders before I go back over to my serger. So I like to minimize the amount of trips that I do going back and forth. So I sew together everything I can sew, then I serge everything I need to serge, then I come back to the sewing machine. Just the way that I do it. However you do it works for you. Some people, especially with woven fabrics, like to serge their pattern pieces, the raw edges of their pattern pieces first, and then sew everything together. And sometimes that is necessary, because like the split, sometimes you do need that seam pressed open. So if you've already serged both pieces and then you press it open, then it's finished on both sides already. I usually am familiar enough with the construction or have read ahead to know when that needs to happen or not, although I didn't do it today, I'm aware. And I do it accordingly, but mostly with knits, I just serge after. Each seam, that is. Can't get too far along. I really would have liked to have made something pink and red like my nails, ignore the fact that they're growing out, for Valentine's Day, but I didn't have pink or red fabric. I had this burgundy fabric. And again, I'm not a big Valentine's Day person, so me and my husband aren't going out or anything like that. This was just sort of like a good excuse to make a dress. And a kick in the butt to jump back on live. So. All right, so that's both side seams. And then I'm going to pin together the shoulder seams which I actually could have done before, but we have it now. So pinning together these shoulder seams, you can see here, there's the notch, pin at the notch, pin at the other end. Do the same thing for the other shoulder. And then really the only things that we have left is the band and the hem. So you can see how quickly this comes together. Thank you. You can see how quickly that this comes together as a dress, which is why it was on my list. If you saw my Instagram post where I was asking what should I sew on live, I'm still going to make those Winnie pants out of that Kiss like French terry fabric. I'll show it to you guys in a second. I'm still going to do that because I have a sweatshirt already. So I need pants, and I made that sweatshirt years ago. It was oversized at the time. Is it oversized now? No, not at all. But it still fits because it was so oversized when I made it the first time, which is a plus in a way. All right, one shoulder and a second shoulder. Keeping that 5/8 of an inch. Now, the reason why I'm going to try it on at this point is to see if I need to make any adjustments before I serge. So give me 1 second, of course, off camera, to put this on so you can see it. And then we'll decide if we're finishing off the side seams. But yeah, this is basically what we're working with here. Give me a second. Now I have on leggings. I'm going to turn this camera around. Give it a second to catch. This is where being vertical would help so much. I'm just going to point it down some. So yeah, this is the fitting that I'm going to do here. Let's see. Mostly fitting. This out of the way. All kinds of issues. All right, so I'll adjust the light in a second so you can see the bottom better. I do have on my lovely Shaper Mint leggings. Love them. These are 2X. I probably should have got a 1X. The gray runs a little bit smaller than the other colors. Sidebar. Anyway, so they're not doing as much compression as they could be doing, but they're doing something. So this is a straight size 20. I haven't made any adjustments to it. And I'm going to actually have to look at myself in the mirror because it's hard for me to tell. I'm trying to look at the camera. But, yeah. This is the mini length. Comes all the way down almost. I might shorten this. That's always something I can do at any point. So, I'm going to have to look at myself in this mirror and see how I feel about the fit. Oh, I don't have the mic. I don't have the mic. Hold on. Sorry, I sounded so muted. Okay, now I have the mic. All right, so I'm looking at this in the mirror here, and it could be, like these armholes could be a little looser. I don't want there to be some gaps. I will turn around to show it to you. And I was right. It could be even tighter on the hips, honestly. So I may come in, especially in this hip area, and just cut it a little bit straighter. I don't have hips. Like, that's just the thing that I don't have. Never have. Got a lot of butt, though. But I ain't got no hips. All right, so I'm going to take it in right here at the hip. I should have put this on the wrong side, but we'll get to that in a second. I'm going to take this in a little bit from the waist through the hip. And then what I don't like here, I'm trying to stay in the light, is I'm getting a little bit of like folding and puckering. This could be fixed with like just a quick little arm dart, like a little armhole dart. Could fix it, but I'm going to cheat and just sort of take it in underneath the arm. Like take this in more to make that whole knot is weird. Yeah, I think that's going to work. Give me a second. I'm going to put this on inside out and I'll pin it and show you how to do it. And I will bring the mic with me this time. All right, I'm remembering the mic this time. I do need to attach it back. Whoop! I do need to attach it back. All right, so what I'm going to do here, and I feel like my light isn't right. What I'm going to do here is just pin how much I want this taken in on each side. And, oof. It's more than I thought it would be. I am not a professional like teacher or anything, but I'm going to take in about half an, well, maybe even 3/4 of an inch. Ooh, hold on. Yeah, I think 3/4 of an inch in on both sides. Again, this knit is super stretchy, so I think that's why I'm having to do this. So if I take this in 3/4 of an inch on both sides, sorta, it doesn't do that puckering on the hip, and then I just need to sort of mark where I want that to start and where I want to finish. Underneath the arm, sort of the same thing. I'm just gonna pull how much out I want. And it's really awkward to pin under your arm. So I'm just going to sort of do it by feel. I feel like I could take that in as much as an inch. This, I don't want it to be too tight, so I don't want to be pulling. But I do want it, you know, to be a little form-fitting, a little bodycon. And I don't want these ripples because of the space they left me for the hips that I don't have. So, you know, it's always good to sort of do this gradually if you just really want to make sure you don't want to do a lot of unpicking. So it fits me pretty good at the waist. I'm going to put a pin here at the waist because that's where I'm going to want to start to grade out. So right here at the waist is where I'm going to start coming out. Now, you can mostly do this on one side and sort of transfer the markings over, which is what I plan on doing. So yeah, so if I do this, start here, and then it can come back out. Got to sort of look at both sides. I think somewhere down here, at least that's where we're going to start. So I basically just pinched where I sort of want to line back up to the existing stitching. Just going to check it one more time in the mirror. And I think that's going to work. I'm going to put one more pin here to just keep the width that I want to take out in check. Yeah. And then up here, I'm really going to go for it. I'm going to take about 3/4 of an inch, if not an inch out. And I will put another pin there to say where I want to meet back. And it's pretty good till about up here, about 4 inches down, I'd say. It's is where it is good. So I'm going to put a pin there. All right. All right, now we're going to slip it off, come back. Carefully taking it off so you don't lose any pins. Remembering the mic again. All right. Coming back. All right, so here I have the dress. I'm carefully going to turn it back inside out. All right. I really wish I could bring the camera over here to show you what I'm doing. And in the future, I'm going to figure out how to do that. But for right now, I'm just going to sort of talk through what I'm doing. I'm going to mark with my chalk marker. I maybe could do it on that table. I'll bring it over there in a second. With my chalk that I had out earlier. Well, that's okay because I have this chalk pencil too. And a ruler. I'm going to first start at the underarm. I'm going to measure over about the 3/4 of an inch mark. And this is away from the seam, not from, you know, the edge of the fabric, because you already sewed a seam, so you're measuring from that. And then I'm going to use... Oh, do I only have the one chalk roller now? Huh. Maybe I do. Okay. I literally used it. But anyway, okay. So I'm going to trace this out. This one just isn't as dark as I want it to be. But that's fine. I'm going to just sort of trace this to the place where I put the pin. And that's where we're going to take that into. And then using the curved part, I'm going to sort of fix this curve from where I mark. Basically, I just have no hips, y'all. So... I'm using my Mimi G hip curve. I don't think you can get it anymore, but a regular hip curve will work. This was just the one that I could grab first. I'm just going to gradually change this curve from where it was to where I need it to be. Really wish I could find, not really for me, but just so when I show the changes, I can show you where I made the changes. Where's my chalk roller? Oh, in true me fashion, it's on the ground. Oh, great. Okay, here we go. All right. I just want y'all to see it better once I bring it over there. Okay, yep, that looks better already. This dark fabric, I need the lighter color. All right, so there's that. And then I'm going to draw in this curve, lessening the curve basically because I have no hips. I'm going to take that in. And then we're going to sort of bring it back out. I want it to not be too dramatic. And this may take a little finessing. There we go. Thank you, Catrice, for sticking with me through my madness today. So glad I didn't publicize this too much. All right, so I've made these adjustments on one side. I know you can't see it. And I'm going to sort of bring them over to the other side. A cheap way to do this, especially because I use this chalk roller, is to sort of just press it over and just tap it because it'll sort of transfer. But I am going to measure some things. I'm going to measure it over this 3/4 of an inch again for the underarm. And then I'm going to figure out where I bring it back by transferring this pin from one side to the other. It's basically right above the underarm notch anyway, so that doesn't take too much to figure out. Yeah, just gonna mark that. All right, and then I'm going to come over to this hip area, line up everything, starting with that underarm notch, sort of putting the hip curve together. And like I said, I'm just going to sort of tap, because if I tap, that's going to transfer the chalk from one side to the other side beautifully. And then I'm just going to go over it with this, with another pass, just to make sure that it really sort of stands out, because it was just being transferred over, so it wasn't completely, you know. Here we go. All right, so yeah. Now I can explain it a little bit better. So this is the shoulder. I actually think this makes more sense, sorry. Ooh, maybe the light isn't as good. This is the shoulder and this is the underarm. So I marked over 3/4 of an inch and then just sort of drew, actually, let me do it this way. And I just sort of drew a line with my chalk roller. Hopefully you can see that faint line from 3/4 of an inch in to the point at which I said it was fitting pretty well, which was right above this little notch here. And then on the hip curve, I had a pin where I needed to start taking it in. That's where I started the chalk line. And the vertical pins that I had to take out to draw the line were like sort of here and here. So I drew the line through those 2 points. This bottom pin was where I wanted to sort of bring it back, but the angle was really sharp, so I had to bring it down a little bit further than I had initially planned below the pin. So basically right now, I'm just gonna Lord have mercy. I'm gonna sew over these chalk lines. So here's the first one at the underarm. I'm just going to start, meet where it was, back stitch to lock it in place, and lift. Now for the hip, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to come to that place where I wanted to start it, a little bit above actually, put my needle down, make sure it's in that existing sort of stitch line, and then follow that until I get to this new chalk line. Follow it. Until it meets back where the stitch line was. Back stitch to lock it in place. There you go. Now I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, but I'm going to be sewing upside down because that's where I can see the chalk. So I'm actually going to start lower and then go up to the underarm. I wanted this seam pressed up and then I stitched badly. Well, now it's going to be down. So we're going to start at the original back stitch, go up, stay on that chalk line, underneath the underarm, and lift. The only reason why I don't backstitch at the end is because I know that this seam is going to get encapsulated later when I add the band. If you can't keep track of that, then it's better to just backstitch when you start and finish the stitch, but I really know where that's going to matter and where it's not, so I just don't always backstitch at the beginning, at the end. So the same thing here, we're going to start a little bit lower than the line that I created, stitching over the original seam line, backstitch, go, follow the new chalk line, until you blend back in to the original stitch line, backstitch again. All right, now that I've made those little adjustments, I'm going to try it on again before I take it to the serger, because we just want to make sure that I didn't do too much, because that's possible. Oh, all right, let's see. I'm going to try it on right side out again, which probably is going to be a mistake, but I'm very confident that these adjustments will do what I needed it to do. So hopefully it's not a mistake. Let's see. Well, it is definitely snugger in the chest, which could be a good thing. Let me get back in view. All right, let me look at myself first. I still have a little bit of gaping on the armhole that I don't like, but it is better. And it might be even better once I add the bands, though I sort of doubt it. I really think this just means that I need to do something, a full bust adjustment, or add these little armhole darts, but I don't want to. This is just a quick dress. So you can see the back does lay nice and flat. I like that. And now it fits better here. Oop, chair's in the way. And I'm not looking at myself. Switch it around. Yeah. So I feel like it fits better in the hips here. I don't have that extra sort of like bunching on the sides. The seam allowance is real thick here, so you may be able to see that. Don't worry about that. I'm going to go over it with the serger. See the split. Definitely gives a little leg. Have on my leggings. Ignore my bedroom shoes. But yeah, so that's the little side seam. You could also open this as high or as low as you want. Like, the pattern is just a suggestion. If you wanted to give Jessica Rabbit, you know what I'm saying? You could bring it up as high as you're comfortable with. This is good for me though. So actually it could go a little higher, but I ain't gonna do it to y'all. Mostly because I don't feel like unstitching, but you know, this gives you a little leg action. So I like how this fits in here. I'm very much rectangle. Like, a lot of this is the same. So that works for me. If you're curvier, you might not need to make that adjustment. I like that it's not like really tight in the waist. So like I'm not doing that, but I do like this. This works well. I did do a sway back adjustment because I just typically need a sway back adjustment on this pattern. So hopefully I don't have too much bunching there in the back. And I don't think I do from what I can see looking at myself. Maybe when I play the video back, I'll see something different. Is my mic still on? I hope so. So yeah, so I feel like the hips are good. I'm pretty rectangle. This is lining up better. And I feel that the back looks good. I did that sway back adjustment. I probably could have done a little bit more now that I'm looking at it, but it's fine. That could just be getting caught up in a fat roll. And the armholes aren't perfect, but I'm just going to go ahead and add the band. I don't know what else I could do besides maybe sewing a tiny little dart, but the bands may actually sort of fix that too. Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, so now let's move on to sewing the bands. What y'all think about this length? I'm now thinking that maybe I should have done the shorter version. But I think I did the shorter version last time. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, we'll do this. I can always cut it off later. So I'm going to keep this length. I like the slit. I probably would have liked it maybe like 2 inches higher, like right there. But it's going to work. So all we need to do now is add the neckband, the arm bands, and then hem. So it might be a little past 9, but it's going to be pretty close. So let me take this off. We're going to make those adjustments. I'll try it on one more time to see the finished look, and then we're done. All right, so now one thing we do have to keep in mind is that because I took 3/4 of an inch out of the underarm seam allowance, I'm gonna need to take that out in the armband as well. So we're gonna go ahead and start with that, I guess, so we can make sure that I don't forget to do that. All right, so you know what else? 1, I stopped reading the directions. And 2, I did not serge. So hold on. I'm just going to aim you my way. And we are going to do this serging real quick. Now, when I do this serging, I'm going to be cutting off a lot of that extra seam allowance where I ended up taking it in, and that's fine. It's going to capture everything that it needs to capture. It's going to work out perfectly. Using the inside stitch line as a guide, I'm just going to go right over it. I do think I need to replace this knife blade because it is, or this fabric's thick, I don't know. Because it's wanting to get caught in here. Uh-oh. Nope, it's good, okay. Sorry, thought something came apart. Did something come apart? Something did go awry. Hold on. We're going to sew back over that. It is this, I think, to Catrice's point, I should have cut off some of these loose threads before I took it through. I think they got caught up. And it caused some weird tension. Hopefully that doesn't look too weird in the end. Let us pray. All right, hopefully we'll have better luck with the other side. And we're also going to serge off the shoulder seams at this point. Those are nice and quick. All right, and then the other side. My pedal was doing something weird. So that looks good. All right. So now we are back. I have basically everything sewn together and all the edges served off. So now we are going to do the hem bands. I am going to start with the with the armband. Like I said, they're similar in length, so I just kept mine pinned together. So you can see here, this is the armhole band for view B. I don't know how it would be different from view A, but apparently it is. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm going to, there are two of these, and I kept them pinned so that I wouldn't lose track of what was what. And I'm just noticing that one side has a notch that I didn't mark, but it doesn't matter because I'm gonna have to take like 3/8 of an inch off, or 3/4 of an inch off both of these. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and do that with the little scissors that I keep here at my desk. And I do have my trusty seam allowance ruler, so I'm going to use that to mark where that 3/4 of an inch is. You don't have to worry about seam allowance because the seam allowance was always going to be there anyway, right? So that's included. I'm just going to mark 3/4 of an inch with my chalk pen. Now I don't mind using the pen. So I'm going to show you on this camera so you can see it closer up. I just made this little line right here. That's 3/8 of an inch from the end. And I am going to just literally cut that off. That's going to take care of what I took off. Put it under the sewing machine because the right sides are already facing. And stitch across. I'm going to do the same thing to the second one. Now you may be like, oh, but you didn't transfer that little notch right there. That little notch is just making sure that you keep this centered. And this is short enough and I'm not doing enough manipulation to it that me not transferring it, just never letting go and laying it down is enough to keep everything lined up. All right. And then I'm going to snip these two apart. Ding. Now we have both of the armhole bands. So over here on this camera, what we're going to do is take this and fold this in half lengthwise like this. I'm going to place one pin where the seam is, put it in place, and then there should be a notch at the other end. A tip that I have is to always create a notch when you have a center fold, back fold, in the armhole case, top fold. So like you know that this goes at the shoulder seam and then this side goes to the underarm seam. So you have that right here. And then again, right sides facing, you're going to find your armhole, which I have right here, and you're going to pin the seam to the underarm. Make sure you get that situated because you just want to hide it, basically. If you do it to the shoulder seam, it won't really hurt anything, but yeah. And so we are just going to pin that there. And this is why you had to serge, because now you're going to be sewing over those seams, so you don't want to do this too late. And then you're going to match the shoulder seam to the notches. I like to press my seam allowance to the back, and I'm doing that with my hands instead of with like a iron right now. And then you're just going to ease the rest of the curve in. So anytime you have a band, the band is going to be shorter than this is the actual dress, than the armhole. In a different, more complicated piece, you'll have additional notches to tell you how to line everything up, especially if you have a sleeve. Sorry, we're talking about bands. So you just sort of stretch the band a little bit to meet the length. And then you want to make sure that you're getting not just one, but both sides of the band. So I just sort of stretch it and then hold it in place and pin. And that just is going to help you ease that extra fabric of the dress around. I'm going to place, I don't know, maybe 3 pins here in between the shoulder seam and the underarm seam. And then the same thing for the other side. Sorry, I'm so close to this camera. So again, this is the band. It's a little bit shorter than that. And you're just going to sort of want to evenly distribute that stretch. Hold it in place like that. Place the pin. I'm going to add 2 more pins. If I had also marked that notch, I should have notched. It would have lined up right there. It wouldn't enough because I ended up taking it in, but it should have if I didn't have to do that. So I added 3 to this side. We're going to do the same thing to the other arm. Uh-oh. Here it is. We're going to do the same thing to this arm. This is also where I take these pattern pieces and make sure that I put them back in the envelope before I lose these little pieces. All right. So yeah, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to fold it in half lengthwise. Put a pin. Fold so the 2 notches for the shoulder seam meet. Put a pin. With the right sides facing, or to the right side of the dress, I should say, the rib sort of doesn't have a wrong side for the band. You're going to take those raw edges. You're going to meet the underarm seam with the seam of the band and pin. Same thing that we did before, which is going to be to ease this in. Once you, now make sure also, see I'm untwisting this, I had it twisted, make sure that your band is doing the same thing. All right, and then again, hand pressing. Child, where is, oh, you know what? I'm already messing up, y'all. I'm doing this, I'm literally, don't do, ugh. I literally was doing the neck. That's why things weren't lining up. I was doing the neck hole and not the armhole. So let's move over to the right place, the armhole. And I'm going to repin. Do not put your pin in your mouth. Do not put your pin in your mouth. Do not put your pin in your mouth. Despite the fact that I just did it. All right. We're going to do the underarm seam with the seam of the band. I was doing the neck. You're going to make sure that that isn't twisted. You're going to match the shoulder seam to the notches. Pin. And then ease in the rest of the dress to the band, or the band to the dress. Adding a few more pins. Then we are going to go to the sewing machine and do another stitch at 5/8 of an inch, because they kept that seam allowance for the bands too. So I'm just going to add these pins. Making sure that I'm sort of stretching the band as I pin it. Oops. You don't want anything too weird. Sorry, it's just easier and quicker for me to do this off camera. I showed you once. And then I'm going to stretch this in a little bit more. Here. Yep. All right, so now that I have all of that pinned and eased, I'm going to start. Now, look, I'm about to do it again, y'all, with these extra threads. Catrice done told me. We're going to pull this over, snip all of that excess off, just to make sure that it doesn't get tangled up in the bobbin or something crazy. All right, I am going to take this, put it under the presser foot, get it at that 5/8 of an inch, remove this pin because I do not want to sew over it, hand down. Now I do it this way. You could remove this arm on the table and just wrap it around, but I find it just easy to do this way. So right now I sort of have the dress inside out, but I'm opening it up and going in the hole of the dress. And I'm actually going to move this over because I want my bands a little wider. So I'm going to move the needle over a little bit, put it back down. All right, so now I'm just going to keep this lined up with the 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, but I move my needle over, so it's going to be a little bit less than 5/8 of an inch. And you want to make sure that you're not losing any of the layers. You want to make sure you're getting both layers of the band and the dress. Removing the pins as you go. Just going to go all the way around in a full circle. Now, once you get back to where you started here, you're going to backstitch. And so now you have it sewn all the way around. You would take this out and press it. Now you have a couple of options. You can take this over to your serger, which I'm going to do, and you can serge this off. This will also reduce some of the bulk in this seam, which is why I moved my needle over a little bit too. So it's not a very wide band. This is all you're really going to see. So you can serge this off, which again is probably what I'm going to do, but you could also fold it under like this. You still would want to, well, it's a knit, you don't really have to finish it, but you can fold it over. Well, hopefully I will not poke my eyes out. Thank you, Tonka Bear. I put contacts in with these nails, so I've had them for a while. But yeah, so I'm probably just gonna serge. But you could finish it off with pinking shears or not at all, whatever. You could reduce it or whatever. But you could flip it over like this and then top stitch. You could either top stitch with a zigzag stitch because this armhole will get some stretch. You could either stitch it with a zigzag stitch to top stitch it down. I don't always like the way that looks. It depends on the project. On something more casual, I would probably do that. But since it's not really a dressy dress, but it might be like a little bit more of a special thing, like it's my Valentine's Day dress in theory, right? I don't think I want the zigzag. You could do a stretch stitch, which again is this triple stitch here on the orange one, the little triple stitch. That is a stretch stitch. Look for that symbol. I could do that, and if I did that, then that would still look like a straight stitch, like a straight top stitch, but it would allow the fabric to stretch. I also have some EcoFlex thread I could use that would give it some stretch with just a regular straight stitch. But what I'm going to do is just serge it and hope that it stays under. The problem with sometimes doing that just simple serge is that when it's time to look at, or like when it's time to wear it, sometimes it'll want to flip back out. I'm going to serge really close to this seam so that even if it wants to flip back out, it won't be out further than it. And if I give it a good press, hopefully it'll stay down, because I just want the clean look. I don't want any top stitching. So I'm not going to do it. I don't even know what the instructions say. And since we abandoned them a while ago, I'm not going to look. All right, so now we're going to do the other armhole exactly the same. Just sewing in the round. Making sure that everything's staying pretty lined up and that you're catching all three layers. The 2 layers of the folded over band and the dress. I really need mats on my floor so my petals will stop slipping. All right. And you're pulling, see I'm pulling the band a little bit as I sew. Don't worry, I've yet to sew over my finger. I may get close, but pulling that sort of out of the way. Trying to make sure they're all staying lined up. See, I was pulling a little bit there. Now again, once we've made this complete circle, we will backstitch to lock everything in place. So there we go. I am going to cut all of these loose threads this time because I don't want this to get caught up in the serger. I really need to keep a little trash can on this side of my sewing table too. My sewing table is like 6 feet. It might not be 6 feet, maybe like 5 feet. So I'm always going back and forth. But before I take this over and serge, I'm also going to do the neckband, and I might also hem it because I think I'm just going to do a double fold over hem. Or I might serge it. I don't know. Let's see what the instructions say. I guess I will revisit the instructions. I'm just cutting off all the serger tails and like loose threads from previous steps that I should have done already, so that nothing gets ate up by the serger when I take it back over there. Just don't want like a nesting problem. All right. I think that's most of them. Give it a good shake over here. Gonna clean up right here, sorry. All right. I don't want to throw that needle, that pin away. Get it. Get that. All right. So shake this out. Now here's another loose thread. All right, shake that out. All right, now for the neckband, I again kept that piece pinned because I didn't want to be looking for the neckband later. So the necks are different. It's a crew neck or a scoop neck. So this is neckband B. So I do have that separately. And I made a notch here at this notch, which is, actually I don't know why that's there, but whatever. I made that notch, and then this notch is for the shoulder seams. And then this will be the center back seam. Now, I didn't make any adjustments to the neck, so I don't need to do that trimming off that I did before. The right sides are already facing, so I'm just gonna feed this through the machine, lining up that center notch, making sure that everything's lined up. I'm just gonna sew this at 5/8 of an inch, real quick seam. And there we go. Yes, I did not move my needle back over. I just realized that, but it's going to be fine because, you know, the band is shorter anyway. So we're going to do the same thing. You're going to sort of finger press this open and then fold over the seam. I just like to pin that to keep that in place. And then I like to go over to the center front notch, which again, I don't know if there was a notch. I think I just marked it. We'll look at the pattern piece in a second, and I'm going to pin there. So yeah, they actually did. Well, they don't. See, here's the center front. I always just make a little notch wherever the center front is. So I made a little notch at the top and a little notch at the bottom, just like it was this notch. To me, that just makes it easier to line everything up. Some patterns will have that notch and some won't. I've just found that it's better to have it than not have it. I don't care what the pattern says. So this is going to be, oh, now see what I didn't do? I didn't mark the center front of the dress. Silly, silly me. Because I did not cut it on the fold because this is this asymmetrical view. But what you can do is line up the shoulder seam and then find the center that way. And I'm just gonna make a little snip to make sure that I'm lining everything up right. I'm gonna make my own notch, all right? So now that I have that center front notch, it is, well, let me do it on this camera. Now that I have that center front notch, it is sandwiched between these other two notches that were on the hem band. So we're just gonna line all that up. We're going to take that center front notch and put it right sides facing, or the right sides of the dress. You're going to pin it at the neck. And then we'll do those two notches that were off to the side that actually were on the pattern piece. We're going to pin those, and that just makes it easier to know that you're actually easing it in correctly, because things will line up. There is the single notch that's to the other side of the single front. See, I almost put that in my mouth. I caught myself. I caught myself trying to lead by example. All right, put it there. And then I'm going to line up the shoulder. These were dots on the pattern. I made notches because I hate drawing darts. Dots, not darts. I don't really mind darts. And then I'm going to line up the center back with the, well, here's another loose thread. Going to line up the center back with the center back seam of the band. You want that to line up fairly nicely so that once it's together, it looks clean. And then I'm doing the other shoulder seam to the notch as well. And that's actually going to be enough pins for the neckband. We're just going to take this right back under the machine at, again, the 5/8 of an inch. I like to start at the center back, so that just makes sense to me. I'm probably going to add my tag too, but I'll wait to do that once I get it in. I'll do that after I serge. All right, so I'm going to move my needle back over because I forgot to do that last time. Pull that up. So I don't know how it got stuck down. Actually, no, I'm not, because this is the hem band, so I'm going to bring it back over a little bit more to the right. And then I'm going to start fairly close to the center back, put that needle down just to make sure it's in there. Stretch the band as I go, and go. Now you could definitely start with the back stitch. You probably should. I don't, because I know at the end I'm going to back stitch, and that should lock the original one in place. So So you're just going to go around. You don't want to stretch too much because you don't want this to get stretched out. But you should be using a knit that has good recovery for this dress or any kind of bodycon dress, so a little stretching won't hurt. All right, we're making the complete circle. And we're just going to back stitch right over the start of the stitch. All right, cut off all of these loose threads. So many. Just get in there, cut them all off. Cut this one, all of these. A little bit of nesting under there. Cut that serger tail off. It's going to get caught up when we do the rest. Did I get the armholes? Yes. Neck hole. Yes. And the other armhole, mostly. All right, so now I'm going to bring you over to the serger and we are going to serge these. I'm going to start, it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to start with the arm. Just going to get it right under there. I'm going to have my knife on. I'm going to cut off a lot of this excess by sewing really closely to the stitch line, or serging really closely. Something that is not like this. I don't know if that's the timing, if it's the tension. Something is making this outer needle skip, but only sometimes. I don't know what's happening here. We're very close to the end of this, so I'm not redoing this. It's stitched and serged, so I feel like there's enough coverage between one and the other. This is also something I can do on another day. The one needle is catching, so I'm just gonna let it go. Now see how when I flip this, even if it wanted to flip out, it still wouldn't flip out past this because I did it pretty close. Like I said, if you wanted to top stitch it, you could. I just don't want that. All right, so now let's move on to the neck hole. We're gonna start at the center back. I don't know what else I could do. Like, this thread is going through the tension. I loosened the tension. It's not coming out of the needle. That's certainly not the problem. So I don't know what's happening with it. We're just going to pray for the best. Put it back under. Some people have a hard time serging in the round. I never did. I think because I just make it work. But basically, like I just did, you're going to just sort of stuff it under there and just start. Now see, peripherally this time that needle's catching, so I don't know. Just trying to make sure the seam allowance doesn't get twisted up and stuffing it under. All right, so when you do sew in the round, at first you're going to be a little further out. You're going to have to move it over to catch the needle, or to catch more of the fabric. So at the end, you're going to serge over where you've already serged till you get to the uniform seam allowance. And then just sort of pull straight off. That's how I sew in the round. We'll do it one more time on the other armhole. I'm going to start again at the underarm. You're just sort of going to push it under there. You're not going to be able to get super close because the blade hasn't cut that fabric yet, but you're just going to start while sort of moving the fabric over. See that? Now it's cutting. So you can see here, hopefully, that that's a little bit further out, and then it gets closer, right? So now when I go back over this, I'm going to basically serge this little part off, and that's how at least I sew in the round. And then you just sort of come straight off, and you can do it and then tie it. You can tuck it under, whatever your mode is for like finishing off a serged in. I usually tie, or sometimes I literally just cut and just put a little dot of fray check there. But you can do what I'm doing right here. Pay no attention to the chip that I did on this nail. And just sort of do that. Cut off the remaining. Come on, another little piece. And I'm going to do that to all of the ones I did. So I think that was one armhole. I think this is the neck hole. It's going to sort of get in here. Get the looper and needle threads apart. Oop, this one I cut a little too short. Let's see if I can knot it. Maybe not. Might have cut it too short. I don't have any grip on these two lighter. There we go. All right, there's a knot. There's a second knot. Cut that excess off. And then lastly, the armhole, which that one I did to cut too close, so I'm just going to cut it really close and then go over it with a little bit of fray check later. That is a serge I missed earlier. All right, so see how I still have all these little loose threads because I just be going too fast, y'all. It's not about speed. All right, so yeah, cutting most of those loose threads off. Now all we have is the hem. Let's shake this out. So now we have the bands on, and all we have left is the hem. Now I will go back to oh, they do edge stitch. They edge stitch the bands on the pattern, which I could do, but I'm not. They also do it for the back hole opening. Can you see me? They also do it for the back hole opening that I omitted. It calls for a 1-inch hem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to serge off the end of the dress, the hem of the dress. Not serge it off, but just like serge it to finish that raw edge all the way around. We're going to do that right here before I move over. And then we are going to fold that under 1 inch and sew. But I like to finish it because they always want you to press under that 1/4 of an inch and then press under again the whole inch. And in a knit, it's sort of hard to keep that 1/4 of an inch press line really straight. And I haven't pressed anything yet. Do as I say, not as I do. But I don't mind, especially since my serger thread matches so well to my dress, not doing that 1/4 inch turnover and just folding it over 1 inch and 1/4 and then stitching. So that's what we're going to do. But first we're going to serge the seam. All right, now I really could have just lifted the blade that time to not cut it off, but I sort of like to even everything out as I'm going along, because sometimes you have like a little bit of difference when you get to the side seams or the back center seam. Maybe everything didn't line up just perfect. I'm going to go ahead and tie this off now because when I fold this under, I don't want to catch any loose threads or anything crazy. So we've done it at this end. Now let's go to the beginning. There are some loose threads. Again, I just sort of, I do this so quickly, I'm sorry. I go in here and I can tell, I don't even know how to tell you how I can tell, that these are the needle threads. It helps also that this time they're lighter, like they're the pink versus the burgundy. And I just sort of, it's easier if you do it with the pen, but I had the scissors in my hand already. You just sort of want to get those two threads by themselves, the two pink ones, the two needle ones, and just pull it out gently. And then you can separate the needle threads from, now see, now I'm trying to show y'all, now it wants to act up. All right, I just want to separate, come on. I just want to separate those two pink threads. Now look, how many times have I done it earlier in this live? There we go. And separate them from the burgundy threads, and then I can tie it off just like I did on the other side. So then those are the needle threads, and those curly ones are the looper threads. And I just sort of separate them, or you could take one of each in each hand. It's just easier for me to do it this way. And I just do a little double knot to tie that off. Just how I finish serges. And I will go ahead and empty my little trash bucket here into my trash bucket back here. A little bit less to do the next time I'm in here. All right, so now we can move back over and do this hem. Again, I'm going to try to clean up a little as I work. So these are the instructions that I barely referenced. I'm going to take them. I'm going to put them back in. These are the pattern pieces that I used. Here, this is the neckband that, see, was already on the floor. Don't want to lose it. I'm going to take these pieces, and I think there's one more piece. Yes, still on the table. And I'm just going to put this back in the envelope. And that way, I still have all my pieces. All right, now because I'm not top stitching, we're going straight to the hem. I am going to use my hem guide. I can't move that any further. I'm going to put this down to 1 1/4. You can see that there, that would be 1 1/2. That's 1 in the middle, so 1 1/4. I'm going to take that and I'm going to use that. Usually I eyeball this, but for the sake of today's lesson, we'll try to be more legit. You're going to fold this over using your hem guide to get that 1 1/4, at least to get started. So see, that's right at 1 1/4 pin. Sometimes I find it easiest to do it at the seams. So like you have that right there at this seam. I'll check it again. It's pretty much there, very close. Pin. Then I think the next seam is the side seam. I just want to make sure that I'm finger pressing it to the same side, not adding too much bulk. Look at there, first try. 1 1/4 on the dot, pin. And see, now I have this long stretch where I don't have a pin, but I'm just going to pick in the middle. Sort of try to keep it even. 1 1/4 pin, and just do this all the way around. And we're going to get to the center back seam. This probably is, I don't really know. 1 1/4, it's pretty close there too. Pin through, and then I go back, check somewhere in the middle, good, pin, go to the next seam, which is the end. That was a longer stretch, so I'm probably going to put 2 pins in between here. So here, 1 1/4, pin, and then like I said, there's a longer stretch here, so I'm going to go about 1/3 of the way. Fold down, pin. I'm gonna do one more. Just try to keep it as even as possible. Yep, and pin. Now, I'm going to do this as a straight stitch as well. If you wanted to do this as a zigzag stitch, you most definitely could, and I am going to do it on the wrong side just to make sure that I am catching it. I'm going to try to line everything up because this is sort of like my 1 inch line right here. I'm going to line the hem up with the 1 inch, and then I'm going to move my needle all the way to the left because I want it to catch a lot closer. Gotta make sure it gets all under there neatly. I want to catch right like where the serger is. Like I want the thread to be in there. So I'm going to start here, back stitch, and then just try to keep it lined up with this 1-inch line here for a nice straight hem. And make sure, oh, I'm a little too far over. I'm gonna adjust this a little bit. Yeah, to make sure that I'm definitely catching that fabric. The important thing if you're a new sewer, watch the guide. The needle is going to do what the needle is supposed to do. You don't need to watch the needle. As long as you got everything lined up correctly, it should catch. Now, you didn't have to move your needle over as far as I did, then it would definitely catch. But I want it to be in between that serged portion. So I don't want to see a separate line on the inside. I also very much should have serged my fabric in the opposite direction, because here you do see the lighter color threads. If I would have serged it wrong side up or right side up, then you would see this darker side, but it's fine. Now here you do want to be careful because you don't want to like pull this so it's too far out. You don't want anything to get too wonky. So I'm just going to sort of hold it so it lines right up. All right, it's looking pretty good. We're going to get to those final couple of stitches. Back stitch. All right, now that's locked in. We'll snip off all these little extra threads just to keep it clean. See that? Good. And then the other end, we're gonna snip this off as well, here on the front and on the back. So that won't peek out any. Now I could also stitch down here to make sure that stays together, and I am gonna stitch right over that line. You don't want that to be open. Again, cutting off the loose threads. Got a little bit of a nest going on there, so cut all that away. I'll clean that up a little bit more later. All right, and then we were going to have the same problem on this side, so pull that up, go right where that stitch line is. All right, that one was a much cleaner installation there. So we're going to clip all this off. All right, so that's pretty good there. Now the dress is pretty much done, except for I want to add one of my labels. I do get my labels from Wonder Label or Dutch Label Shop. They have great labels. I have both this one in the woven with my logo, and then I have this tiny little woven one that I like to use. I don't know, I just ordered these because I thought they were cute. I sometimes do these like under pockets or like in side seams or like at the bottom of a hem so you can see it. Since this is going to be inside, I'm just going to do my regular one. And I will find the center of the neckband, which is not hard because we have the center seam there. I'm going to take that center seam and in this seam allowance portion here, like not the actual band, and not the dress, on the seam allowance of the band, I'm going to pin the label. I know that my label is not completely symmetrical to the word. I've done this enough times that I know that the S is the middle of the label. So I'm sort of just lining the S up with that center back seam. See it? I'm just going to pin like that. Maybe a little lower. Yeah, like that. And then I take it under the machine, making sure that the dress is folded away, and I'm just working on the seam allowance, and I just stitch right on top. Line it up, pull the needle back up. Oops. All right, everything got wonky. All right, slide it back under. Line it up. I like to place the needle down to make sure it doesn't work. There used to be a time that I used to make sure that I switched my thread out to white to just keep it cleaner on the label. I got over that because I got lazy. So yeah, I'm not changing. Sometimes I just stitch on both sides a little bit. This time I'm actually going to sew all the way across. Making sure to stay on the seam allowance. Get to the other end. Do a couple more back stitches. Cut close on this side. Don't cut the fabric. Almost cut the fabric, and then cut close on this side. Some more threads down there, and cut off the top. And so now my label is in. Again, I still think it would look better if it was white thread and you couldn't see it, but it's fine. So I'm gonna try this on, and then we are going to take a look at it. Let me move this camera so it'll be closer to where I need it to be. Yep, give me a second. Now, I am not going to take these leggings off. Apologies in advance. But here is the dress. Bring my light closer. Oh, I don't know if that helped any, darn it. But yeah, this is the dress. Like I said, I think it fits better now that I took it in at the hips. The length is fine, especially with the hem, made it a little bit shorter. Hold on, I'm trying to... get this light better. I don't know that helps. Anyway, this is basically the finished product. You can see here that the bands are on. The bands are on here, right? So that gives a clean finish for the neck. Like I said, before I actually wear it, I will give this a good press down to try to keep that seam allowance going in for both bands. I also give the hem a good press to make sure that that stays nice and folded under. But overall, I think the fit on this is good. There's still a little bit of gaping here at the armhole. I feel you can see a bit here that I wish wasn't there, but it's fine. Yeah, overall, I think the fit is really good. I do like the slit. I would like the slit a little bit higher, to be honest. And that may be because I have on these leggings and maybe I just can't see how much leg I'm actually showing. But I definitely think it could go 2 to 3 inches higher. So about right here, if you just wanted to show like a little bit more leg. But overall, I think it's a very cute dress. I did eliminate the back opening, obviously. I just wanted to be able to wear it without worrying about what kind of undergarments or whatever to wear, because as a bigger busted person nowadays, just going without a bra ain't an option for me. If it works for you, the back out is very lovely. I've already made it that way once, and I don't wear that dress often because I have to find the appropriate thing to wear under it, which can be a pain. I want a dress that I can just sort of throw on and go out and look cute, but not like I tried super hard. So I think this is a nice basic bodycon dress. It's a little elevated because you do have this curve in the slit. If you wanted to be really fancy, you could do a color block. You know what I mean? Like you could make this whole dress black and then make this white, or do a whole dress red and do a little pop of color. I mean, like black and do a little pop of color like yellow or something for this little front side piece here. And that would be cute. I did it, of course, all in a solid because this is what I had. And I think it worked out really well. I did do a sway back adjustment, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. But overall, I think the fit is nice. I love a Liverpool knit. That's what this is. So I knew that it would work for this dress. Before, when I made it, pretty sure it was a jersey. But I think that this Liverpool works nicely. It's a little thicker, so it forgives a little bit more lumps and bumps. But I do have my Shaper Mint shapewear leggings on under it right now. And whenever I wear this dress out, I'll probably have on my Shaper Mint bodysuit, or I'll have on my Shaper Mint shorts bodysuit, like a traditional, you know, brief bodysuit, or the shorts, to just sort of keep everything snatched in here. And I'm very pleased. Overall, I think this will be a great date night dress, or a dress great like hang out with the girls dress. It could also even be like a running errands dress if you really want it to be, because it's a modest length. The slit's not super high. It's very comfortable. It's a throw on and wear kind of dress, which is my favorite kind of dress, with the back concealed, that is. So yeah, I love it. I am apologetic that I had so many issues today with this live, but sometimes it's good to show the real. It's good for me because it helps me like stop trying to be a perfectionist. And I think it's good for you guys to see that things don't always go as planned. I've been sewing for over 10 years. I still had a snafu with the broken needle in the serger. I had a snafu with some of the tension on the thread, and that just happens. That's real life. No matter how many things I sew, some things are seamless. Some things you just do them and it's quick, fast, and hurry, and it's great. And then other times you have little snafus. Thankfully for this one, there was no major snafus. I didn't have to do any unpicking. Just had to do a little bit of fitting, a little bit of maintenance to my serger. So thank you for watching, whether it's live or the replay. I promise you, as I get in the groove of doing these lives weekly or bi-weekly, they will get better. If you like this, at least sort of, then please leave a comment and let me know what you'd like me to do next. If you made it this far, I did previously say that I wanted to do some free patterns. I think that would be a good weekly series. Whether I can finish them in one series or we have to have like a part 1, part 2, that's an option. I have quite a few free patterns that I would like to sew again and that I would like to sew the first time. The True Bias Jessie tee is good. The Closet Core tee is good. I have the Closet Core knot dress. I forget what the name of that one is. It's a free pattern. It's really cute. I have several unfettered patterns that I think would be good for beginner to intermediate sewists. I also have mood patterns that are free that I haven't gotten around to sewing. So let me know what you want to see. Dresses, shirts, pants, you know, whatever. We're moving into spring, at least, you know, where I am in the US. So I want to start thinking along those lines. I don't want to do too much winter stuff because we're about to hopefully get out of that. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you'd like to see. I would be more than happy to sew something that you want to sew. And they don't have to be free patterns. It could be anything. Let me know. Or if you want to do a session where maybe we just go over certain issues like top stitching or bobbin issues or threading issues, or how do you sew an inseam pocket? How do you sew a fly zip? That kind of thing. Let me know, and I'm going to try to bring it to you because my goal for 2026 is to have these at least once a month or bi-weekly. We're going to shoot for bi-weekly because then we'll at least do once a month. So keep it posted. They're probably always going to be Wednesdays from 7 to 9 East Coast time. If something else works better for you guys, let me know. But then again, you can always watch the replay. So thank you guys, and until next time, happy sewing.